Let's talk about the full moon in Sagittarius. The full moon in Sagittarius is moving us through the summer solstice 2019. Sagittarius is ruled by the planet Jupiter, and Jupiter is all about expansion. So if you are wanting to deconstruct any limitation, reshape any perception, Sagittarius can help you with that. Okay. Sagittarius is very much about gaining a wealth of knowledge, and Jupiter is all about wealth of knowledge through experience. It's a very philosophical planet. Through experience, through trial and error, we gain wisdom. Okay, and this wisdom is a participation. It is a practice. So Sagittarius, when we see that bow and arrow, is very much about try and fail, and then you get closer and closer to your target. So through participation, just like in order to know how to do bow and arrow, you have to participate. You're never going to learn if you don't try and fail and just keep going. Okay, so we are being guided to really look at how we are off the target. So how we get off the target, such as the bullseye, okay, to our vision, is limitations. Okay, we call them blocks, we call them distractions, we call them perceptions about our self-worth that weaken us. Okay, talk about weaken our arms so that we can't shoot our bow and arrow as fierce and as directive, as impactful as we could if we strengthened those areas within ourselves. Okay, so Sagittarius during this full moon is going to really bring up any distractions, any emotions that we are suppressing that are weakening us. Okay, anything that we are indulging in, any limitations, any perceptions that we have that is really confusing us. So Sagittarius is like the Azotic record, a library that's pretty organized. It's pretty clear cut. Okay, and Sagittarius is pretty clear cut. So if we have any sort of emotional confusion going on, anything that we're indulging in that is dampering our energy, that is weakening our self-worth, our self-esteem, that is all going to come to the forefront. Because in order for us to really strengthen our self-worth so that we can really hold the pose of that bow and arrow, is that we have to look at the areas in our life that we are discouraging ourselves. Okay, so Jupiter is all about encouragement. Jupiter is all about having the confidence to go out there and have experiences and to try and to fail and to try and to fail and learn something. So Sagittarius is all about that learner's mind. Okay, so we're going to be learning at this time the lessons that maybe are very difficult for us to look at, very difficult for us to learn. Sagittarius is giving us an opportunity to actually learn it because it's about mastery. Jupiter is about mastery. We're wanting to come full circle. So any lessons that we've been trying to learn or trying to gain insight or wisdom on, they're going to come to the forefront. Okay? And we are going to be guided to, instead of analyze, instead of nitpick at it, or instead of kind of indulge in it, Sagittarius is asking us to move. So Jupiter is about let's move forward. Let's not indulge. Let's not analyze. Sagittarius is let's move. Let's actually take action. Let's participate in what are we going to do that is going to move our target closer to what is our clear vision. Okay, so that may be meditations, that may be yoga, that may be creating boundaries, that may be discernment, saying no to previous perceptions that we have or the previous worth that we had before. Okay, it's all about taking that initiative. So in any new experience, in any learning experience, you have to take the initiative. Nothing can be learned if you're not taking the initiative. Even to study, you have to take the initiative to actually study. Okay, or you're not going to study. So we are being asked to study right now, study the life lessons, and we're seeking a studious mind at this time, not for let's kind of introspect and kind of space out and let's go to some higher dimension, that kind of thing. No, it's a different energy. We're wanting to be studious with the lessons of life so that we can get more grounded, we can get more realistic and practical about the action steps that we need to take to prepare ourselves for that bow and arrow pose. So that bow and arrow pose, you can meditate all day about the visualization of you doing the pose, but there comes a point when you got to step up and you got to hold the pose. You actually got to really experience that grounded, practical lesson of holding that bow and arrow. So Jupiter is giving us the creative spunk, because Jupiter is about creative spunk, okay? Giving that this creative spunk to reshape any sort of self-esteem or self-worth that we have that is creating what we call a distraction in our lives, okay? So we want to really work through that. And a part of working through that is going through the motions, going through the thoughts. It's not about ignoring, it's not about suppressing, it's not about denying and trying to just do other things. No, it's not about any sort of let me just kind of not do that. A part of the expansion of Jupiter is I'm going to go through it, I'm going to study it, I'm going to learn something from it. We never learn math if we don't go to math class. Okay, we never learn algebra if we don't go to algebra class. That's the same thing with the emotions and the thoughts that are coming up. If we're not going to work with it, kind of like working out a problem, okay, with a creative spunk, we are not going to find the necessary mindset we need in order to see us all the way through. So it takes a mindset to learn something, it really does, or to solve a problem, or to complete a lesson. It takes a certain mindset, and a part of that mindset is I'm going to see it all the way through. I'm not going to check out, I'm not going to drop out of class, I'm not going to not attend class, I'm going to stick it all the way through, okay? And I will fail, and I will progress, and I'll fail, and I'll progress, and that's just that. So seeing it all the way through is what this full moon in Sagittarius is offering us at this time, okay? Especially with the summer solstice, it's really getting us in alignment of what is my vision. It's kind of simple, like, what is my vision? So we all have a sense of vision, but this vision is a little bit different from, let's say, talking about the vision of visualization, and I'm going to visualize and visualize. This is a little bit different than just going inside of your introspective mind. This vision is a participation, a preparation. Okay, we're being initiated, and a part of that initiation is blazing through, moving past those final layers of disappointment or feeling defeated, because Jupiter is also about disappointment. It's feeling defeated, feeling bound, feeling that you're unable to do what you need to do, feeling oppressed, feeling tied up, feeling that there is a bigger force than yourself that is preventing you from moving forward. All of that stuff is going to be coming up because it's encouraging us to get a vision and to stick with it, to see it through. So the vision, we have introspection. A lot of times it can be very elusive, our meditative vision. It can be very elusive and spacey. We're focused on sticking with that vision. So part of sticking with that vision is not allowing these feelings of something's bigger than me or the oppression of myself because of whatever collective limitation that I'm in. Okay, my parents don't understand me. My family thinks I'm like doing something that is really strange. It is sticking with the vision regardless of what is coming at us. Okay, so a part of this vision is more than just, I'm just overnight, I'm just going to think of a vision real quick and just kind of do it. No. Like the bow and arrow, you don't just do the bow and arrow one day and then you expect that you have the pose. This vision is something that is connected more so to our inner child than it is to our ego, or it is to whatever sort of attention we're wanting to get, or any sort of title that we're wanting to achieve. This is beyond that. This is a vision of the inner child, something that's been with us since we were a little girl and little boy. So it's a little bit different from our obsession with attention or with money or with relationships. And no, it's a little bit different. This vision has to do with the spiritual maturity that we're wanting to have in this incarnation. And a lot of that spiritual maturity is hinted at from the inner child. So anything that is very organic for us to be, that is the inner child speaking through us. That's the spiritual maturity we're wanting to have. But a part of that Jupiter is really burning and blazing through all of the judgments that are creating this, what we call this delay when it comes to the inner child speaking to us. So the inner child speaks to us from our most inner heart, and then it goes through the layers of our human consciousness, okay, such as judgment, such as shame, such as approval, such as acceptance, such as resistance, such as fear, such as doubt. And by the time it actually gets to us, that voice of that inner child has been made into so many different voices that we can't even recognize that inner child, as though that there is no inner child and it doesn't exist anymore. It's just a faint memory or a photo of our 5-year-old self, because of all of these layers, these filters that goes through to get to us. But it never gets to us, does it? It gets kind of caught in the mix judgment and approval and need for attention and validation, all of that. It gets it gets a little bit lost in those realms, okay? So with this vision with the inner child is helping us to really look at the spiritual maturity that we have been denying in ourselves, okay? And it's not a question. We're not asking ourselves a bunch of questions and just sitting in contemplation. It is more so we are going to give ourselves what our inner child has been calling for a very long time, whatever that may be. It's not of a thinking, it's not of a contemplation. It's like, let me actually give myself what this inner child has been wanting. So that's, again, it's a participation. It's a level of faith. It's a level of, I'm going to put myself out there. It's like Sagittarius, I'm going to travel to Spain, or I'm going to travel to Iceland because I want to have an experience, and my inner child is asking me to go there for spiritual maturity. Now, I don't know exactly the details, just like when you go to algebra class, they give you a syllabus on what you're going to learn, but you really don't really know what you're in store for. You don't really know exactly what's going to go down in that class, even though you have a syllabus. Okay, it's kind of like that, where you have a sort of direction, but the plan changes. And a part of that Sagittarius is having that learner's mind, having that inner child to be like a voice of reason. So when we have all of these whirlwind of judgment and shame and guilt and whatever sort of things that are coming up, that inner child, that voice of reason, that vision of our spiritual maturity is what helps us to see it all the way through. So regardless of what experience we're in, we can see it all the way through. And that's a level of participation. That's a level of the studious mind. That's a level of mastery. So we all have, these visions, and they're all like elusive and spacey, and a lot of them are not really grounded or practical or actually applied. They're not actually applied into our life. They're just kind of like just something out there in the ethers that one day, no, this is an application where we are, all of us have something that we say we're going to do. This is kind of, we're looking at are we going to do what we say what we do? That's very much with that target. See, that's impact. A person who does what they say. Okay? And a part of the language of Jupiter. Okay? So the language of Jupiter is looking at our self-worth. Okay? If our language is a self-worth of I can see it through, regardless of what comes my way, I can see it through. That self-worth is going to see it through. But if our self-worth is, I don't really trust myself, I'm not really secure about this, I'm not decisive about this, I'm confused about this, what's going to happen? Our doing is going to be indecisiveness, non-action, 2 steps forward, 5 steps back. We're not really articulating ourselves appropriately. We're not really finding ourselves. We're kind of just in between. Okay, we're in that limbo, the in between, where the doing is kind of just here, there, all over the place. And that's what Sagittarius is wanting us to kind of like work through. That I'm all over the place in my doing. Okay, so a part of that is getting to that core language that we all have. Okay, so that core language of which is our self-worth. So wherever our self-worth is, it really shows up in what we do, our application. So if our doing is like we're chopping our own foot off, or we are doing things out of doubt, or just settling, or just going for things because we are feeling bound or feeling oppressed or feeling a bigger force has control and I don't have any impact or say in that, it's going to show up. It's going to show up and it's going to want us to look at it so that we can have a better language with ourselves, a self-worth and impact that can see it through. Okay, see it through whatever it is, a lesson that is coming up, it keeps directing your focus to that thing. It's because you're wanting to learn that on a subconscious level. You're wanting to learn that level because through going through it, if you were to go all the way through it, you have a mastery. And a part of mastery with Jupiter is you become skillful, you become talented. But nobody becomes skillful or talented if they don't see it all the way through. It's like the great mathematician is a great mathematician because they went through all of the lessons that math is. From high school, college, master's, PhD, they went all the way through it. And that takes a level of application. And application is such a studious mind, is such such a joy for participation, a joy for trial and error. There's a joy for that. There's a joy for going to Iceland or going to France and that not working out, but you learn something about that error. You learn about the people. It broadens your mind. It helps you to understand what works and what doesn't work for you. How your thinking before created assumptions, and how you're thinking now is creating more clarity. So we're wanting to get out of assumptions, such as, I'm assuming France is da-da-da, okay, and getting into the clarity through my participation in France. I actually learn this because of the people that I live with, or the people that the town that I'm in. I have a level of clarity. So clarity is not, let me meditate all day in some elusive spaciness, and let me fantasize, or let me daydream. Okay, that's a different sort of placement. That's a different full moon in a different zodiac kind of energy. This is more so of that trial and error, that studious mind, that I'm going to apply this into my life. I'm going to participate, okay, because I want to see it all the way through. And that gives us an opportunity to learn a new skill and to become talented in a new way. So we're wanting to connect with this at this time with a new skill, with a new talent, whatever that may be. So all of us, we have so many talents and so many skills. We're not bound to one, we're not bound to three, we're very dynamic. But let's say that we are limiting our talent, or limiting how skillful we can be because we're belittling ourselves, we are discouraging ourselves, we are resenting ourselves. Any of these distractions, okay, or these restraints that we're doing to our self-worth, basically we're going to have the chance to actually say no. To say, no, I'm not going to participate in that anymore because I am not seeing any sort of mastery in doing that. Okay? I'm going to see it all the way through when it comes to challenging my beliefs, challenging my identities, challenging my perception, challenging my assumptions, challenging the way I relate to the world and myself. That is what we call becoming skillful, not dwelling in our the indecision of moving forward. No, it's a level. I'm going to challenge this belief. I'm going to challenge kind of what I've been doing by setting up a new path for me and sticking with it, setting up a new routine and trying that and seeing how does that impact my previous belief system, by changing the routine, by creating sort of a new path for myself, by allowing myself to go into these territories of myself that require a greater level of self-worth, a greater responsibility, a greater sense of pioneership. What am I going to learn in that? So it's asking us to have a greater self-worth, a greater self-esteem, a greater pioneership, so that we can actually go into these new territories and not just back off of them or run away from them or hide, because they challenge us. They challenge our very beliefs. They challenge our very assumptions and judgments. Okay? So a lot of judgments will be coming up. The judgments we have about people, the judgments we have about ourselves, the judgment we have about our career path, the judgment we have about our relationships, all of that's going to be here for us to study, to see what judgments are bringing us away from our inner child, and what judgments are actually, or we could say what boundaries or discernments, okay, are bringing us closer to our inner child, closer to capability and possibility, closer to creative solution, closer to what we call the divine. We're going to be experiencing this on this full moon in Sagittarius.